Before we get into week 18, though, we're going to go ahead and recap our week 17, and we're going to do our heat check where we check in with the hottest players from around the league in week 17. That's going to be our offensive players, our defensive players, and a very special spotlight on the rookies that we did so much work for over the offseason. And I keep saying that, and I've said that for weeks and weeks and weeks now. And now we're getting to the point where I'm 21, 22 players into the draft cycle. So we're already kind of inching our way, and we have some content in this podcast about the next draft coming up. So kind of going to be waiting off the rookies here pretty soon and heading into the new rookies that are going to be coming into the league. But starting off with the offensive side of the ball, Drew, where did you head for your offensive player of the week? Essentially, lots of options. I feel like this week.
Yeah, I made a bold prediction before the season started that Joe Burrow was going to win the MVP because his defense was going to be so terrible that he was going to have to throw for
Yeah,
500 yards and 5 touchdowns a game. And ultimately, he's not going to win the MVP, but he's definitely statistically wise in consideration.
he's in the
To be
conversation at the very
to
least.
be to be considered. He has been outlandish this year. But I'm gonna go with someone different this week. I'm gonna go with my boy Baker.
There we
Uh,
go. Yeah.
and the reason why I'm going with Baker is because do you think the Cleveland Browns would like them some Baker Mayfield right now? Now,
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
let let's not take away the fact that the Buccaneers have done a great job of surrounding him with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Bucky
Yeah.
Irving and all these weapons and letting him go ham out there. But holy smokes, the Browns are going to draft a quarterback this year, and Baker
Yeah.
Mayfield is balling out for the Buccaneers. So my offensive player of the week, I'm going to give it to Baker Mayfield. He threw for roughly 900 yards and 16 touchdowns or something crazy like that. It was a hell of a game. Really fun to watch. Joey B being my fallback guy there.
Yeah, I don't think you could have gone wrong with Baker, especially throwing 5 touchdowns, and taking care of business against the Carolina Panthers, where your division is on the line in the next coming week, and that gets you into the playoffs essentially. Where I went with a guy who has been searching and searching and searching for his first touchdown of the entire year, and he finally got
Trey?
it. Trey McBride coming in with
Yeah.
12 receptions, 123 yards, and a touchdown. He's been phenomenal the entire year. He's been up there with Brock Bowers and George Kittle. He's just as good as those guys has been all year. He just hasn't been able to get the touchdown production that those other guys have gotten the entire year. So he finally got one. Obviously, Kyler tweeted out, said we're going to get you one here pretty soon, and he did. So it was a nice little screen pass to right there on the goal line to get him in. And I don't think you could have gone wrong with either one of the running backs who are they were sitting there competing for the rushing title there for a little bit. But Derrick Henry and Saquon, you could have gone those guys either. Derrick Henry 27 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown, and then Saquon 31 carries for 167 yards as well, which I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about Saquon later on. Specifically with my doghouse stuff, I have some stuff to talk about with Saquon, and then talk about reviewing some of our bold predictions from earlier in the season. So stick around for that. Moving off of the offensive side of the ball, moving into the defense side of the ball, I'm going to go ahead and couple of ways you could have gone about this. Not a lot of huge performances, but I went with Zach Allen. 7 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, and count on one, two, three, four, five, 6 quarterback hits. A lot of pressure on the quarterback there. Not exactly getting the win last week for the Broncos, but he was all over the place. Again, 7 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and those 6 quarterback hits is what makes a difference. But again, I feel like you could have gone a couple different ways here. Where did you go?
Mm, You know, I'm gonna shout out two guys.
Okay,
Uh,
good.
I'm gonna give the award just because I'm a hater to CJ Gardner Johnson.
No, there it is.
Um,
Yeah,
just because, just an absolute dominant 2 interception performance, including, a game-changing pick six, but
yep,
ultimately
absolutely.
in a game that meant absolutely nothing. And
Mm.
my other player I'm going to shout out in a game that meant absolutely nothing is one, um, as I blank on the Detroit Lion, Kirby Joseph. One Kirby
Oh,
Joseph.
yeah. There you go.
He had 2 picks also, won the game for his team. The Detroit Lions beating the 49ers obviously didn't mean anything. There's a huge matchup coming up this week, very exciting
Yeah.
game. But I think for a team that's had a ton of injuries on the defensive side and a 49ers offensive team that was just putting up points on them left and right for their defense to hold out a little bit. And also this is the team that sent you home last year, and I don't care what anyone says, that means something to you. I know the
Yeah.
year after Brock Purdy tore his UCL, when we came back and smashed the Eagles, that was the Super Bowl for me, beating the Eagles, because I know if he had been healthy, we'd have gone to the Super Bowl that year. So it's important, no matter what they say, for those Lions fans. I know Dan Campbell treated it like an important game
Yeah.
to get that win and knock the 49ers off. So I'm going to give it to CJ Gardner just because I'm a hater and he beat the Cowboys, but shout out to Kirby Joseph also 2-pick performance. It's anytime you get 2 picks in a game, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, CJ was my fallback guy. Was a little bit of bias to not select him. Yeah, probably, but I'm not really about the bias stuff. When if anyone's gonna hate on the Cowboys, I'm gonna be the first guy to raise my hand and talk about it. So you're not gonna find that around here. If you're new around here, I'll definitely be a hater if I have to. And most of the time this year, I've had to. Now moving into our rookie performances, we don't just select one person for the rookie performance, we select 3, and, thank God that we do, because week 17 was the week of the rookies, because I felt like there was just banger after banger after banger after banger. Selecting 3 of these guys was kind of difficult, whether someone got their first pick or, someone had 2 touchdowns, or I had a hard time picking 3 of these guys. I ended up going and picking 3 of them, and I picked 3 fallback guys just in case I pick one of yours or you pick one of mine. Um, where did you start off, though, for one of your rookie performances?
Um, I was pretty outspoken starting this year that I thought that this guy was the 3rd best wide receiver in the class, even though
Yeah.
he was being taken pretty high. Malik Neighbors,
Yep.
he is the freaking truth. There's no
Mhm.
doubt about it. I mean, and you saw it in the game. His ability to it's one thing to take the top off a defense. It's another thing to take a quick hitter and take it to the house, outrun
Yeah.
everybody on the field. Like Malik Neighbors is the full package, every which way about it, which is it's fun to go back and look at what I thought of him leading into the draft, especially since we're looking at Travis Hunter right now and what he's going to bring at the next level. But
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze has not had a great year. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been largely absent for bulks of the year, which I'm not
Mhm.
worried about either of those 2 guys. I know they're going to be successful, but
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors, and to be honest with you, that dude down there in Jacksonville, my goodness, what a great crop of rookie wide receivers. We got so lucky really diving in this year into that group. You and me have already talked about it. Looking at the upcoming class, we're just kind of like, man, this it's tough to get excited about this. So yeah, my number 1 guy this week was Mr. Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, first time in NFL history that 4 rookies have, eclipsed the 1,000-yard receiving mark, in one season, and, that includes 4 guys, like I said, but only 2 colleges, and that includes, LSU and Georgia. So Brock Bowers, Lad McConkey, and we have our LSU guys in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. So those guys are the ones who eclipsed the 1,000, and again, only coming from 2 schools, it's a little nuts there. So first guy I went with is, I think it has to be Bucky Irving. Talk about a guy that we didn't really have a lot of discussions on coming into the year. 20 carries, 113 yards, 4 receptions for 77 yards. Um, by the time he actually got fully into the starting role, took it over from one of the most inefficient backs in the league in Rashad White, he ends up kind of exploding now at this point. So Bucky's doing a great job so far. Not really a whole lot of discussion on what he's what where he was going to go in the draft or anything like that. But again, fantastic. That's where I went first. I hope I didn't take one of your guys. but you already took
No,
one of
I
my
went.
guys.
You know, Bucky has just been so consistent all year, and I kind of felt like I thought that that was going to be the case for him because uh, Rashawn is not a good running back. He's a
No.
good
Yeah.
receiving back. He's a
Yep.
good receiving back. He definitely fills a role out there, but I just kind of expected him to do that. Uh, I'm going to go ahead and shout out my boy Brock. I'm going to do it. He
Yeah.
he broke Puka Nakua's record, which Puka Nakua broke Jalen Waddle's record. So it's kind of crazy. These rookies are just coming out and establishing themselves so early on.
Yep.
Brock is just, it's very clear that he is a weapon at the highest level. I think he's probably already, if you were drafting tight ends next year, and I don't mean fantasy, I mean physically, like a football team, if you were drafting a tight end, would you take Brock Bowers number one next year? And if you didn't, is it Sam Laporta maybe? Uh, that's about it to me. Obviously, Travis Kelsey's had a good year. George Kittle's had a great year. They all do their things, but Brock Bowers is a freaking weapon,
Yeah.
and it's something that the Raiders fans have haven't really had since that guy that's in jail now. I'm not really going to mention him either. That's the last time they had something super exciting on the offensive side. Don't miss me with the Devontae Adams stuff. He didn't do much for you guys. So I'm gonna go with Brock.
Yeah. I think you also have to kind of go with another mainstay here as well. Um, Jaden Daniels, 24 of 36, 227 yards, 16 carries for 127 yards. Every single time that we mention the guy, which I feel like is half
Is
the
a
time that
lot.
we're doing this, Drew's doing victory laps because I was the doubter in the situation for Jaden Daniels, and Drew was the pound the table guy for him, absolutely. And Drew definitely took the one up on that one. When it comes to the draft stuff, if you want someone who's probably going to take a little bit more, things are going to be a little bit more right. Probably take Drew's opinion on some of the stuff because I definitely wasn't hitting on all the quarterbacks situations. Trench guys, I end up hitting and being correct on a lot of those where they should play and how they should play. And but quarterbacks, that's on Drew. So, but definitely got to go with Jaden. Um, Big week for him. Again, 227 yards passing, 3 touchdowns with another 16 carries and 127 yards on the ground. So, and a big win for him against the Atlanta Falcons in overtime. Kind of put the team on his back against Michael Penix, another rookie going out there, who I'm a huge believer in. I think he could do some pretty great things. I'm glad he's getting some starting time, and he looks pretty good. So, hopefully, with a full offseason with the starters under his belt this next year, hopefully he can do some great things. Who's the last guy you're going with?
Well, I was gonna go with Michael Penix, but I guess maybe I won't since you kind of just stole my thunder there.
There you go.
Hey, shout out to Michael Penix though, because I tell you what, was losing my fantasy championship with Jaden Daniels as my starting quarterback when he fumbled that snap at the goal line. It was like freaking second and 57. And oh my goodness, his delivery and his motion, it just all looks so funky, but it just is just it's touchdown city. What can I say?
Yep.
Um, I am a little nervous because I really don't want to hear this Kirk Cousins to the 49ers bullshit this offseason, but it definitely looks like the Falcons are going to move off of Kirk, which is
Oh, yeah,
crazy
100%.
considering what they just paid him.
Yep.
Um, so small shout out to um, you know, Michael Penix. I guess I'll go defense here.
Mhm.
Um, if you will allow me to combine the bodies of the Los Angeles Rams defensive linemen and
Mhm.
just talk about them as a whole. They
Yeah, go
I don't have the stat pulled up in front of me that you sent me, but they are. I'll tell you what, I'm not excited. I'm not excited. Those two dudes are super freaking legit. Jared Verse um, is a game changer, which is absolutely crazy that they brought those guys in. Literally this season, I didn't even get one season of no dominant defensive lineman out of the Los Angeles Rams. Aaron Donald retired, and they're like, "Come on down, bring him on in." Jared Verse is not Aaron Donald, not yet, but yeah, shout out to those guys. They've been absolutely crazy this year. And I look up at the standings, all of a sudden the Rams are going to the playoffs, and
yeah.
the 49ers are gonna play all the worst teams in the divisions they play next year, so that's good. When the 49ers are
Yeah.
14-2 next year, remember that. They got to play all the scrubs in the divisions. It's not because they had some huge bounce back year. It's because they get to play the scrubs. So I'm gonna give it to Jared Verse and Fisk.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Fisk and Jared Verse, and then obviously second year player and Kobe Turner has they've all been fantastic. Fisk was going to be my next guy because I was talking about guys that I pound the table for. Fisk was a guy that I absolutely like rocked
Yep.
every single time for, and he's up there with 8 sacks, I believe, and he should get some considerations for some type of either he didn't get anything for the Pro Bowl. We'll see kind of where it comes down for some of the All Pro stuff. So I'm interested in where it kind of falls in. But he's done fantastic. So he was gonna be my next one, but I'm gonna actually shift and I'm gonna go with another guy who's had a fantastic season on a really bad team. And that's Drew Phillips. This guy that you've talked about here and there throughout the season. He recorded a pick this week, 6 tackles and a pick. So shout out to him because he's had a great year. Haven't really had the chance to fully talk about him besides the little spurts of, hey, he's done pretty well. Hey, he's done pretty well. Hey, he's done pretty well. And I did mention that this week was the week of rookies. Xavier Worthy, 8 catches, 79 yards and a touchdown. Lad McConkey, 8 catches, 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr. had 96 yards. Brian Thomas Jr. had 91 yards and a touchdown. I mean, these guys, it's again
You better
over.
mention my boy.
Which
Come
one's your
on,
boy?
Pearsall. He had 140
Oh
yards and a
yeah,
touchdown,
yeah.
bro. He
You're
finally
right.
showed
Yeah.
out. That dude got shot in his chest. He should have died.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, like I said, the week of the rookies, week 17, good week to come back, especially with all the work that we've done this past off season. If you didn't stick around for the work we did this last off season, subscribe to us and watch all the work we do for this next off season because the draft is always a really exciting time for us. We usually do roughly between 3 to 4 rounds of work on rookies at the very least, and it looks like we're probably going to be on track for that again this year with a little bit more in-depth stuff because I know Drew, you said you want to take notes on a bunch of guys, and I've been taking notes. I have 13 pages of Google Docs notes already on like 20 guys. So it's definitely hitting the ground running so far.
Yeah, and just to put a bow on the cornerback you mentioned, I'm a big believer in touting the PFF grade when it fits my narrative and ignoring it when it doesn't fit my narrative.
Right.
Um, Second highest rated rookie cornerback this year is going to be Andrew Phillips. And shout out to a couple other guys. Cooper DeJean, number one
Yeah.
highest PFF rated corner. Couldn't even get off the bench first couple of games. And then they let him off the bench and he showed out. Shout out to my boy, Renardo Green.
Yeah, definitely.
That's going to be the sixth highest. And then Kamari Lassiter, because I don't know if it's just because we hated him on Madden or he just had a rough start to his career. He was the fifth highest rated PFF grade. And, you know, some of these other guys, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cam Hart, on Arnold, they had lower grades, but these were also guys that were put out there from the jump and had to
Yeah.
work through some early season slumps and, ended up having a decent season. So it was a great crop of corners. It was a great crop of wide receivers. It was a great crop of quarterbacks, obviously tackles, just a fantastic draft. Super exciting to cover. Hopefully we get lucky this year with the upcoming draft.
Yeah, especially if you look at that Florida State, so far with Bernardo and Jerry and Jones at slot corner, and then Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. So the Florida State defense, showing out this rookie season. So hopefully they go on and continue that.
It's fun looking back and you're just like, um, how were these college teams not better?
Right.
Like when you look at Justin Jefferson was on which team with who? Like,
Right.
it's not like, you look at a team, Arizona State, in
Mm,
10 years, when we look back at Arizona State, it's going to be like, all right, it was Cam Scattaboo. And that was all they had. But then you look back at, you know, Texas had a wide receiver last night that didn't even play, who might be the number one wide receiver in the country next
mm,
year. And then,
yeah.
Alabama's got a guy. And so I don't know, it's going to be exciting for sure. So, and, Let's get the playoffs over so we can get to the draft. That's
right?
what we're all here.
Well, that was essentially our winners from the week. But around here, not everyone can be winners. Some people have to be losers. It's just kind of part of the NFL. And when you're a loser around here, you go in the 2020 podcast Dog House. And for the Dog House of
Oof,
the
oof.
week, if you are not familiar with it, it could be GMs, players, fans, coaches, the entire teams, whatever you want to put in the doghouse, it can fit in the doghouse. Drew had a full dog motel a couple of weeks ago, so that was pretty interesting. He had people checking in with keys. It was pretty exciting stuff. Um, where did you head off to? Because for me personally, I have two teams. I'm not sure where you're going this week though.
Let's the floor is yours, my man. Let's see what you got.
The 2 teams that I have going inside of the doghouse this week, are actually the 2 teams that played each other. It was the Indianapolis Colts and the New York Giants. Both of them, right after the game, they got changed, and they immediately got checked inside of the doghouse. Let's go ahead and start off with the ones that have the better expectation out of the 2, and that's gonna be the Colts. The Colts, yes, I know that you started Joe Flacco because, Anthony Richardson had more issues, on top of more issues, which there's lots of conversations to be had about that. We've had those conversations, and I'm not sure where that's all going. But you had an expectation that when the Broncos were beat by the Bengals, I text Drew. I said, "Hey, the Colts could make the playoffs. If the Broncos lose, I think they can make it. I mean, they only have the New York Giants to play, and I forget who their final opponent is. Now it doesn't even matter. Now I don't remember because I don't really care. But I know it's another easy opponent. I'm like, yeah, there's two kind of easy wins. They win those two. They get a loss from one of those other teams, and they're in the playoffs all of a sudden. I don't want the Colts in the playoffs because that's not the most exciting type of football that we can watch in the playoffs. That's gonna be the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. Football is
Yeah.
better when Joe Burrow is in the playoffs at the end of the day. But you had the chance, you had the opportunity, and all you had to do was beat the New York Giants, and you let Drew Lock have one of the if you look at advanced statistics, he had one of the greatest quarterback performances of all time. He's, like, put up there with, like, top 5 quarterback performance single game quarterback performances all time. It's like 2 games from 2007 Tom Brady, a game from 2002 Peyton Manning, a game from 2019 Lamar Jackson, and 2024 Drew Lock. When you're looking at advanced
Whoa.
statistics, Drew Lock had one of the most advanced statistical, like, best games of all time, and you let them do that on you.
You better not forget to mention Philip Rivers, sir. He's on
You're
that
right.
list too.
You're right,
Don't
absolutely.
forget
Yep,
about my boy Philip,
2007. Yep,
him
2007
and his
Philip Rivers.
17 kids.
Yep, absolutely right. So, you let Drew Lock do that against you. That it's unacceptable. You immediately go in the doghouse for, 1, letting Drew Lock do that against you, and 2, that's a game that made you lose out on your playoff hopes and your playoff chances. I don't think you're good enough to be a playoff team. I'm glad you didn't make it in because I think it's more exciting when some of the other guys make it in. It's a better story when Bo Nix makes it in. It's a better story, and it's more exciting when Joe Burrow is in so we can watch that type of football. But you had the chance and you blew it against the New York Giants. The New York Giants goes in the doghouse for 2 reasons. 1, you won, and that immediately takes you out of the running for a quarterback. To be able to put you back into a position to have a chance at the number 1 pick again, you have to lose along with all the teams in front of you winning. Every single team. The Browns have to win, the Titans have to win, and the Patriots have to win. Now, the Patriots are going to take a quarterback, luckily, but you have 2 other teams there, the Titans and the Browns, that are most likely going to take a quarterback, or at least they have the chance to. So now you either have to take draft capital to move up if you want one of those 2 quarterbacks in Shador or Cam, or you're stuck with nothing again. So we're back to square one. That's why you go in the doghouse, is because you won a game, and I get it. Players don't tank. I 100% understand and I agree with it. But man, you got to understand that these these things matter. Brian Dable, you're playing for your job next year potentially. If you're not out this year, if you get another opportunity, you're kind of wasting it by not taking a quarterback at this point. And the second reason why you go in the doghouse is Saquon Barkley eclipsed 2,000 yards this past week, and you went forward and let him go. So that's why you also go in the doghouse. It's just the fact that he clips 2,000 after you let him go. So those are my doghouse teams of the week for me.
I should have known not to let the Giants fan go or the Cowboys fan go first because all I wrote down on my doghouse portion was NY circle, and I circled it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Saquon Barkley going off this year, and you guys, I feel like as the general manager, you you have to have a conversation with your staff and have an understanding. Talk to the Mara family and say, Are we? What are we doing next year? Are we bringing Dayball back?" And if you're bringing Brian Dayball back, then you cannot win this game. You cannot win this game. To fall out of Drew Lock, come on. And then Dayball gives this interview afterwards where he talks about this is what happens when you get competent quarterback play. Whatever, dude. Like whatever. Like competent quarterback play, whatever. Like you should not have won that game.
Yeah.
So I did have the Giants in my doghouse. I also had the New York Jets in my doghouse. You fire your head coach, you trade for Devontae Adams. It does absolutely nothing for you. But it's not really the New York Jets that are in my doghouse. It is Aaron Rodgers that's in my doghouse. This dude goes on the Pat McAfee show every 5 minutes, spouts off his face. He's been absolutely terrible. Like, you
Yeah.
just talk about a dude that's absolutely ruined his legacy. Like,
Yep.
the team that you left has been better off without you. You know, Jordan Love's out there balling out. They're going to the playoffs, and
Yep.
you're self-admittedly talking about how this is your last game. That might be your last game. Your career might be over. You're going out on a whimper. That, to me, that puts you in the doghouse. And then the other team, I'm tired of picking on Chicago, but losing 10 games in a row and we talked about how they were giving Caleb Williams one of the best offensive talented rosters a rookie quarterback had ever had,
Mhm.
right? But you surrounded it with piss poor coaching.
Yep.
So I'm not even going to get into that. It is what it is. The Bears are a laughing stock. My final doghouse is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. And the reason for this is you have your coach who's not going to be back next year. Admittedly, I hope he is, just so I can continue to laugh at you guys. Championing, 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 is that the word? Talking about how excited he is about winning these games that you should not be winning because Shador to Las Vegas was a match made in heaven. Cam Ward in Las Vegas was a match made in heaven. And now you're drafting like close to where the 49ers are drafting because you've decided to win games. And your coach isn't going to be back. He's continued to win games. And meanwhile, a 4 or 5 hour drive from Las Vegas down in Los Angeles, there's this coach. His name is Jim Harbaugh, who you could have gone after. The Chargers are in the playoffs. Harbaugh's doing the damn thing. Everybody loves this man.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Jim Harbaugh. He's funny as hell. Herbert is incredible. You know, they're doing the damn thing. And again, the Las Vegas Raiders are just in obscurity. Your team sucks. Thank God for Brock Bowers. You have no quarterback. You have no quarterback next year. What are you going to do? You're going to go sign Jameis? You're going to go, you know what the Raiders are going to do? They're going to go hand $100 million to Sam Darnold. Book that. That's what the Raiders are going to do. They're going to give the 3-year, $100 million Baker Mayfield contract to Sam Darnold, and they're going to be fucking terrible because the Raiders are not the Vikings, not nearly as talented. So the New York Giants, double doghouse for us this week. Aaron Rodgers in the end of his career and the Las Vegas Raiders are all in my doghouse.
Absolutely.